I'm a psychologist, so I got trained in dealing with words that don't mean anything. We call them in our science and psychology, we call them constructs, like
Yeah.
love and empathy and, other, I could go on.
Yeah.
All these constructs in psychology. We call them constructs because we just made it. We came up with a word and a definition to try to explain this covert feeling, thought, phenomena. And so I'm quite practiced in being familiar and comfortable with words that don't mean anything. And
Hmm.
culture is one of them, right?
Yeah.
And culture, I've never ever been comfortable with. I've
Really?
seen the definitions. Shared beliefs and values. You've already talked about value, right?
Hmm.
Going above and beyond what you're doing when nobody's watching. And, when you have multiple definitions of something, that means we don't really know what it is. And,
Yeah.
I'll do this gig with leaders going, you believe safety culture is going to make a big difference. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, what is it? You
Hmm.
just don't know. They don't know. Admit it. You don't know.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'd be doing something. And the thing is, it's like this touchy feely, value laden concept that if we just had it, and I don't know what it is, but I'll know it when I see it. And if we just
Hmm.
had it, it'll make a big difference because I've seen other plants, I've seen other sites where everybody's engaged with each other and they seem to share something and they're looking out for each other and it's good. It really reduces injuries.
Hmm.
So I write in my book, let's come up with a different definition for culture, the behavioral
Hmm.
definition. That one. So from a behavioral standpoint, we want to identify something we can see, we can observe people do, right,
Hmm.
and we can measure. And if we can see
Hmm.
and measure it, then we can apply our science to it, and then change it. We can influence it, but we can only
Hmm.
influence if we can see and measure it. So the answer was simple. The answer was simple. Safety culture is people talking to each other about safety. Period.
Hmm. Yeah.
Talking. I mean, you can see talking. It's a behavior.
Hmm.
You can measure it, and therefore you can change it. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not so. So when an employee stops what they're doing and coaches another employee about a risk that they're taking, does that help
Hmm.
safety? Yeah. What's happening? Talking. When a manager or a supervisor spends extra time in their toolbox talk, having the employees identify hazards and talk about what they're going to do in their tasks today to avoid a hazard, does that help
Hmm.
safety? Yes. What's happening? Talking. When a
Hmm.
leader, CEO of a company, when she decides on making a budget decision, stops before making a decision, asks people what the safety implications are of that budget decision. What's happening? Talking. That helps. And so how do you get shared values and beliefs if there's such a things as those? It's people talking to each other. Now
Yeah.
keep in mind that talking could create a negative safety culture too. When
Hmm.
a worker, kind of chides another worker, hey, don't do all these extra steps. You're not going to get hurt. We need to get this done. Or a supervisor,
Famous
um, you
last
know,
words.
says exactly.
Yeah.
And so the talking can lead to a negative safety culture. So if we look at
Hmm.
safety culture as talking, then we can look at our safety management systems, which are just fancy ways of talking, right?
Hmm.
Just fancy ways of talking. When you're doing an audit, right? You're trying to get information and talk to people about what we could do to improve and relay that information to people that can help. That's just a fancy form of talking. Our toolbox talks, the beginning of shift talks, our behavioral observations. These are all ways, standardized and otherwise, of talking, right? And so
Hmm.
if we kind of get away from this mystical notion of culture and get at what it really is, we can design our workplaces, our safety management systems, and our relationships to encourage, to reinforce talking,
Yeah.
and many many different ways of doing it. And I'll guarantee you, because I've done it many, many, many times over my career,
Hmm.
you invest and you're successful at reinforcing systems that get frontline leaders, frontline to talk to each other and to talk to management, and having this milieu of people talking to each other, you will create that culture that you're looking for.